Welcome, everyone, to the First Unitarian Church in New Bedford. It is Randy Fan and I, Yasmin Flayflay Vincent, reporting live from our lovely sanctuary. We do wish you were all here to fill it with the warmth and love that you all so many of you have. I would like to begin by lighting our chalice, and I have some lovely words from our fellow Ohio UU Fellowship. I will say the words, and then I will go ahead and light the chalice. We light this chalice to find inner peace, love for each other, and faith in ourselves, and also to be welcoming to whomever we meet and kind to all living creatures. So gather around this light of hope as we share this time together. So today I have some opening words from a Unitarian Universalist. I would imagine, I think she's a director of religious education as well as a minister. She has written some books, and these are her words titled "To Learn More About Being Human." Welcome to this morning and this day and this opportunity to be together in community, which is a time of joy and comfort and sometimes challenges. But this Unitarian Universalist congregation is a place where we come to learn more about being human. And it's not like we're here because we've figured out all of life's questions or we know that we've got it right. We actually come here to learn more about being in relationship, that right relationship that Reverend Fuchs spoke of last week. How to listen and forgive and to be vulnerable and to create trust and compassion in one another. So let us move into this worship together, willing to be so authentic with each other and honest with ourselves and opening to connection in all of its forms. Please join me in this delightful hymn that I believe is also from a very famous poet and wonderful person. We sing of Golden Mornings, hymn number 44. Thank you for that lovely Ralph Waldo Emerson tribute to the beauty and nature that is so much of the, I say it's the best and freest form of therapy, nature. And here he is. I wish I could turn the camera, but his bust is over there in the corner of our sanctuary. So it is this time now to all greet one another, and hopefully the weather tomorrow on Sunday the 22nd is as beautiful as it is today. And we are going to recite our covenant together. And it goes, we come together as a religious community, upholding freedom of conscience, right relationship, and the inherent worth of all people. We value our diversity and pledge to care for one another in the spirit of compassion, to speak and listen to each other with respect, and to promote justice and kindness in our world. So, at this time, we do our candles of healing and celebration. I want to give out first a little shout out to Steve Schwartz. He actually came and spent the whole day taking care of some technology and running wires and setting us up so we have the efficiency and ability to continue moving forward in this process. So thank you, Steve. I'm going to light a candle for you as well. I'm lighting 3 candles. Of course, for all of you, this candle represents everything you hold in your heart and you wish you wanted to say, which you can anytime, just send a message to Sarah. But one for Steve, one for the past, present, and future. And at this time, I would like to talk and light that candle for Lucille Bridges. You may not know that Lucille is the name of Ruby Bridges' mom, who actually passed away on November 10th. So in light of everything going on and often coming across demonstrations that might seem hurtful or represent emotions or trigger things, think about how Lucille felt letting her little 6-year-old walk by hate for almost a year and being the only one in the classroom. This little girl, 6 years old. Would you allow your child to do that in this present day? The civil rights movement was happening. Was it any different now than back then? Think about that. So I want to give that candle as a tribute to Lucille. And this is what Ruby speaks of about her mom. She says, "Today, our country lost a hero, brave, progressive, a champion for change. She helped alter the course of so many lives by setting me out on my path as a 6-year-old little girl. Our nation lost the mother of the civil rights movement, and I lost my mom." And she says, "May you rest in peace." And the reason I actually came up with this candle is because Maggie Purse called me at work to tell me about this lovely book of Ruby Bridges that she was going to buy for her grandchildren. And we had a lovely chat. And it got me thinking, because the last time we talked about public school integration with Toni Morrison, and we've been trying to make an effort to speak about the importance of sharing Black stories of leadership in our nation. So shout out to Lucille Bridges. Thank you, Maggie, for inspiring me. I also want to conclude our candles of healing and celebration with some lovely music. Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful little piece there. I want to take this time to do, we don't really have enough time to do a full prayer meditation, but what we do have enough time for is to encourage this little book of joy by the Dalai Lama, Desmond Tutu, and Douglas Abrams. How do you find joy and happiness among suffering? And so I thought I would read this little piece. Being that we are in the days ahead of eating, I thought, why not share something about compassion? It's called a fast. The Archbishop fasts on a weekly basis. Fasting not only helps us develop discipline and self-control, but also to foster compassion, as when we fast, we experience some of the hunger that others do not choose but are forced to endure. Letting go of our focus on food, which is a preoccupation for so many, can free more time to spend on thought and prayer. As the Archbishop got older, his doctors encouraged him to drink during his fasts. So he began a practice of having hot chocolate fasts. You can choose to fast in a way that makes sense for your body, mind, and heart. So I'm not sure if he added marshmallows to his hot chocolate, but I thought that was a little cute offering. So next is our hymn, Let It Be a Dance. Please join me in singing the first two hymns. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let your body learn to bend, and like a willow in the wind. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we love. May I have this dance with you, the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Love for joy, gold must die. And time for joy, time to cry. Well, I'm the one who actually made that into Let It Be a Dance. So thank you, Randy, for dealing with me as I messed up those lyrics. But it is a good song, and I hope that sticks in your head for the rest of the day, because life is a dance. And thank you to that lovely piano. Okay, at this time, we are going to do our offertory words, and I take this from a children's book that I often read, and I always say it, and this is from the story Madeline by Ludwig Bemmel. I'm going to mess this up. B. Melmans. We love our bread, we love our butter, but most of all, we love each other. So today, for the sermon, I'm going to talk about happy healing. Our faith reminds us that healing takes work. After a fight with someone, it's easy to never want to see that person again. We'd rather ignore or run away from the mess. This is true whether we are the ones who did the harm or got harmed. It takes courage and commitment and skill to successfully travel the path of healing. So, here's a knot. And knots are used in sailing, rock climbing, camping, I don't know, all sorts of things. And they're also a way of describing the tangled fights between people and the ways each of us feel after we get in a fight. Sometimes you've heard people say, I feel like I have a knot in my stomach. Well, just like it's hard to untangle a knot, it's also hard to fix a relationship. When we hurt someone, untying a knot helps us remember some important things about how to fix a mistake we've made or a mess that has arisen between us and others. And the first thing is, you have to admit like there's a knot, because ignoring it only makes the knot tighter and harder to untangle. It takes effort to untie a knot, and you can't just give it up on one try. And sometimes we have to ask others about advice on how to untie that knot. And just as you're about to untangle that one, 2 other knots become entangled. So tying and untying knots takes practice and skill. So what's one of the ways our faith guides us in becoming a people of healing? Don't run away from that hard work of healing. Let gratitude heal you. When we are sad or have been hurt, it can feel as though life is out to get us. It can seem as though it is so small and scary. But our faith tells us that gratitude can help guide us back to believing that life is good and on our side. So by shifting our attention from the sad and scary parts of life to the gifts of life, gratitude heals us. Have you ever seen people hold their hands like this? Like that? That is what we call praying. You're right. Sometimes people pray to God or life to ask for things. That's important, but UUs often encourage people to think about praying in a different way. In addition to praying to get things, we invite people to pray by saying thank you for the things we have. In fact, one of the favorite quotes of a UU's is a quote by a German minister named, let me get this right, Meister Eckhart. And he said, if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it's going to be enough. So simply saying thank you can be a prayer. And saying thank you is called expressing gratitude. And when we take the time to say that, and for all the good things in our life, it really helps us feel better. Or it just makes the sad or bad a little less. So saying thank you and noticing the good things in life actually does work. Praying is just one of the many ways we use gratitude to help us heal. So let gratitude heal you. Listen before you try to help and heal others, our second principle. Our faith asks us to serve others. It's part of our principles: justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. But sometimes when we try to help heal others, we assume we know exactly what they need, but we're wrong. So we go right to the golden rule, right? What does it say? I hope all the school children know, and as well as the adults. It begins with you, really. Do unto others as you want done upon yourself. But there's a new one that we're talking about these days, and it's called the Platinum Rule. And it's about recognizing what others want rather than imposing your ideas upon them. So when we try to serve others without asking what they would like, we really aren't helping them or offering the healing they really need. Instead, we could be assuming that we are better than those who need help and know them better than they know themselves. So what's one way our faith guides us in becoming a people of healing? It says, listen before you try to help and heal others. Finding ways to comfort yourself. Healing actually takes work. But our faith also reminds us that healing involves being gentle with ourselves. And when our feelings have been hurt and we're feeling sad and lonely, sometimes the best thing we could do is comfort ourselves. And one way Just might be some food. Macaroni and cheese and chicken soup. Here's food. We eat it when we feel sick or sad or lonely. It comforts us. We're not really up for daring experimental foods when we're in that frame of mind. We want to go to something that makes us feel good. So, as we seek comfort and healing, we seek these foods. There are other ways as well, like petting your dog or your cat, or being part of a church community, knowing that there are actually people who care for you when you're in that mood and you're sad or sick or lonely. So during this time of COVID and isolation, it's really nice to chat with church folks and share together. So we invite you to the Zoom time. So what's one way our faith guides us into becoming a people of healing? Find ways to comfort yourself. And then we talk about healing by telling the truth, especially at Thanksgiving. Each month, we are dedicating one of our sessions to a different aspect of decentering whiteness work. So with our theme guiding us towards which aspect to focus on, when it comes to healing, many brave and wise voices have lifted up the importance of telling the history of Thanksgiving, the true history. So this search for the true history is reflected in our fourth principle, a free, responsible search for the truth and meaning, and our eighth principle, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Our faith has taken up this work and has called on us to be especially vigilant about the work of correcting stories that have caused harm. So, here's a feather. This one is actually not from a craft store. This is found. Maybe it found me. They're fun to play with, and children used them and actually would choose Indian names and stick feathers in their hair and play Indian. And for a while, I contributed to the Pilgrim and Native American setup in preschool with the feast. But feather headdresses are not a fashion item. Actually, this degrades the Native American race. This was used as a specialty. Feather headdresses are a part of the stereotype of all indigenous people, when headdresses really belong only to honored warriors who are part of the Plains indigenous culture. That doesn't mean that we can't admire the beauty of a feather headdress or learn about the indigenous people, because that's cultural appreciation. But when we're using it to make fun and enact, that's called cultural appropriation. Two different things. So one way to learn more about our collective history, especially at this time of the year, the traditional story of Thanksgiving is one of the myths about indigenous peoples. And November is a really good time to start seeking the clarity and the true story, which you can also find links in our Compass and News and Views materials. So at this time, I would like to read you a story that to me really speaks of this time of the year. I thought it would be great. We used to talk about Sarah Hale, but I'm going to read you what a congregant member, Ron Mello, came up to me after reading this. He said, "That is the best story you have ever read here." And I really mean it. And I thank you, Ron. So I'm going to read it again. It's impactful. I think it's really important right now because we are all about to enter that time where our tables are our sanctuary, right? It is now the temple, whether it's just you or you're surrounded by your family. This is Bird Baylor's The Table Where Rich People Sit. If you could just see us sitting here at this old scratched up homemade kitchen table, you know that we aren't rich. My father keeps trying to tell me we are. Doesn't he notice my worn out shoes, or that my little brother has patches on the pants he wears to first grade? Why does he think that old rattletrap truck is parked by our door? You cannot fool me. We're poor. Would rich people sit at the table like this? My mother pats it. Well, we're rich, and we sit here every day. Sometimes I think I'm the only sensible one in my whole family. Maybe I should mention that my parents made this table out of lumber that someone else threw away. And they even had a celebration when they finished it. They lit candles. Understand, I really like this table, and all I'm trying to say is, you can tell it didn't come from a furniture store. It just doesn't look like table, rich people have. But my mother thinks if all the rulers in the world could actually get together at a friendly wooden table just like ours, they would probably solve all the arguments in maybe half the time. And my father says it wouldn't hurt to have a lot of cookies piled up on a nice blue plate that everyone could reach without asking. But tonight, it's our kitchen, and it's our argument, and it's our family meeting, and our very spicy ginger cookies piled up my mother's one good blue flowered plate exactly in the center of the table. I'm the one who called the meeting, and the subject is money. And I say we don't have enough of it. Yep. I tell my parents they should both be a little more ambitious and, go get some good job, maybe buy some nice things. I look worse than anyone in school. I hate to bring this up, Mom and Dad, but, it would be so great if you were a little more ambitious. Well, right here, I might as well admit that my parents have strange ways about working. They think the only jobs worth having are outdoors, and they want cliffs and canyons and the desert and mountains around them wherever they work. They even want a good view of the sky. And they always work together, and their favorite thing is panning gold, piling us up into that beat-up truck, heading for the rocky desert hills, back in some narrow mountain gully where all the roads are really just coyote trails. They love to walk those wide arroyos, the dry stream beds where little flecks of gold are found. They used to tell us the truck knew which roads to take and, the coyotes showed them the way. I really never believed that, but, after a month or two out there, they always had a little bit of gold to sell, nothing to make them rich, but as far as I can see, it was just some excuse to camp out in the beautiful wild place again. They don't mind planting fields of sweet corn or alfalfa, and they like to pick chili and squash and tomatoes, and they put up strong fences, and they train wild horses. But they say they can't stand to be cooped up indoors. So now, of course, my dad's asking, how many people are as lucky as us? But I've called this meeting, and I bet you can make more money working in a building somewhere in town. Remember, our number one rule, we have to see the sky. You could look through a window. Do you see what I mean about being the sensible one here? Finally, my mother says, all right, mountain girl, we're gonna explain how we figure our money around here, okay? You be the bookkeeper tonight. She hands us each a pencil and some yellow paper. She gives some to my little brother. He's just gonna doodle along the way. And by the way, my name's not really Mountain Girl. They call me that because I was born in a cabin on the side of a mountain where they were looking for gold one summertime in Arizona. And they say it is the most magical place, the most beautiful mountain they have ever climbed. Maybe it was, but you know how these two parents of mine exaggerate. Anyway, they wanted my first sight to be that mountainside, so they held me outdoors at sunrise when I was just 8 minutes old. The truth is, I actually really like sunrises a lot. Well, my little brother, guess what? They called him Ocean Boy. They say since I already had the best mountain, for my first sight, they thought he should have the best, most beautiful ocean for his sight. So they traveled all over Mexico looking for that place where the ocean touches jungle. And they had to find that certain kind of purple blue night sky and the exact green waves they like. And they held him up to those waves for his first sight. Someday we're all going back to his green ocean in my high mountain, but for now, even though they claim to be so rich, they can't even take us anywhere. No wonder I had to call this meeting about money. Can you believe my father's sitting here looking me straight in the eye? But Mountain Girl, I thought you knew how rich we are. We can't get very far in this discussion if you won't admit we're poor. All right, I'll prove it to you right now. Let's make a list of the money we earn in a year. How much is that? I'll write it down. Not so fast. We have a lot of things to think about before we start adding things up. Like what? My mother says we don't take our pay in cash. You know, we have a special plan. We got paid in sunsets, having time to hike around the canyons and look for eagle nests. Well, can you give me a single number to write down? All right, fine. Let's just start. 20,000. That's how much my father says it's worth to work outdoors, where we can see the sky all day and feel the wind and smell of rain about an hour before it's coming. He says it's worth that much to be where if he feels like singing, he can sing out loud and no one will mind. I just wrote down 20,000 when my mom says, you better make that 30,000 because it's worth at least another 10 to hear those coyotes up in those hills. Then she remembers that they like to see long distances and faraway mountain shadows. And she says she can tell the time by the way those colors change from dawn to dark. I scratch out what I wrote, $35,000. What in the cactus blooms? You should be there to watch it because really it might be a color you will never see again in your entire lifetime. How much would you say that color's worth? 50 cents, my little brother says, but they decide that's an easy 5,000. So now I write $40,000. But I forgot how much my father likes to make bird sounds, and he can copy any bird, but he's best at a white-winged dove and ravens and red-tailed hawks and quail. He's really good at eagles too and great horned owls. So of course, that's an easy 10,000 having both day birds and night birds around us. I cross out what I had and I write 50,000. I'm beginning to catch on to this kind of thinking, so I suggest, well, I don't know, maybe I'm worth 10,000, and my little brother starts laughing. Don't underestimate yourself, my dad says. Remember all those lists you make for us in our family? He's right, I am the list maker. I make a list, the best books each of one of us has read, and all the ones that we actually want to reread again. I also made a list of all the animals each one of us has seen and the ones we still most want to see out in the wild, not in a zoo. Mine is a mountain lion. I've dreamed of him for 4 times, and I've already seen his track. My father chose a grizzly bear, and my mother wants to see a wolf and hear it call. And my brother, he can't decide between a dolphin and a whale. I remember everyone because I make those lists, and they end up deciding I'm worth $1 million. I say I don't think I am, but I write it anyway. In fact, it turns out that every one of us is worth $1 million. So we have 4,050,000. Then I realize I want to add another 5,000 myself for the pleasure I have in wandering in open country, alone, free as a lizard, not following trails, not having a plan, just turning wherever the way the wind takes me. That's totally another 5,000. So now we're at 4,055,000. Finally, my brother says, put down $7 for all those nights we get to sleep out under the stars. We all look at him and think, $7? Wow. How about another 5? Here we go. We're at 4,060,000, and we haven't even started to count real cash. To tell the truth, the cash part doesn't really matter anymore. I suggest it shouldn't even be on the list of our kind of riches. The meeting's over. The rest of them have gone outside to see the new sliver of the moon, but I'm still sitting here at our nice homemade kitchen table with 1 cookie left on my mom's good blue-flowered plate. And I'm writing this book about us. And I kind of pat at the table, and I'm glad it's ours. And I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to title this book that I'm writing, The Table Where Rich People Sit. Thank you, Bird Baylor. And if that doesn't speak to native landscapes, I don't know what does. So we are now going to enjoy this closing hymn, which Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had played at every protest, even his funeral, sung by Mahalia Jackson, but we're going to enjoy it on our organ. Precious Lord, Take My Hand, hymn number 199. Thank you. It is now time to close and extinguish our chalice. And these are words from Maureen Killeran. No matter how weak or how frightened we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference in the world. In this coming week, may you do at least one thing to support the broken, to welcome in the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of justice and love, to be strong, to be connected, and each day act so you may be a little more whole. I also want to take the time to invite all the children to make cards for the veterans at the Veterans Transition House here in New Bedford and surrounding residential homes throughout the city. So get your materials out, start making cards. It is just one way to have happy healing. Enjoy the time with your family. Thank you all. Over and out.